for me personally, with as much as I like to think that I'm engaged with communities where I live or near where I live, when I listen to you, when I listen to Wayne, uh, it's so clear that how the disconnect on my lived experience with what is happening, in spite of the fact that I am committed to dealing with these issues every day. It is there is something about not being from the community and having the experience in the urban centers where gun violence is really uh, an important part of the everyday life. And as you said, intergenerational. That really is hard to understand for anybody who's not lived through it. And it's something that clinicians learn often the hard way when they realize that nothing of what they're trying works, or little of what they're trying works, because there's so many other factors that they were not properly trained to kind of like look at. And that's another conversation. But anyhow, thank you for bringing your voice into this, it, and again, thank you for doing it with no time to prepare. So I am very grateful for you to do that. Let's now move to open the conversation to include the audience, and I'll be both Wayne, Charles, and I will be conversing about these things now, along with the folks who send us their questions in the Q&A section. I wanted to start with a question to both of you. Then might be a positive way to start this conversation, which is if you could please discuss some success stories from clients, families that you have really worked with, that you encounter, and give us a feel about what success looks like. And when you're dealing with such a difficult, situations like the ones that both of you were talking about.
Well, I'd have to talk to Etiony to the relocations. That is something that we see immediate successes in being able to get a person out of harm's way. It makes a difference between life or death. If a person has been victimized and they're being put back in the same environment, in the same situation, and whoever victimized them in the first place is still set upon finishing what they started, and that individual that was victimized perhaps being keen on retaliating, getting them out of that environment and getting them to a safe place where the victim and the victimizer are separated from committing additional harm to each other. That is one of the key successes. There are a number of behavioral health challenges that have been overcome with the clients. The adverse childhood experiences that was mentioned earlier. Some of our clients have been traumatized and re-traumatized, and their trauma is unresolved from gestation. And I'll give you one little anecdote to show you what it looks like. Troy Martin, young man, who when his mother was a victim of domestic violence when he was in the womb. And when he was 3 years old, he was sent to a daycare center where he got beat up, gang style, by other 3 and 4 year olds. He got home, his mother told him to man up. He's a 3-year-old boy. He's told to man up. And so at 16, he manned up. He put a handgun in his hand and he murdered someone, right? And he was serving a life sentence in state prison. Well, it was a very bright young man, is a very bright young man, and used all the opportunities that he had to restore justice amongst himself and amongst those at in the facility, and took every program that he could take while he was inside, including our positive peer leadership mentoring program. He appealed to the state and he was paroled, and now he's in college. He's working a full-time job as well, and right here in the Miami-Dade community. That's what success looks like to me. Basically, to be able to have a second chance on life, to be able to give back to the community, to be able to realize that, you know, the harm that you committed in the community, and that, you know, be able to take a restorative justice approach to that harm that you committed, and give back and become whole again, and start to deal with that unresolved trauma that had been built up from gestation.
Mhm.
Yeah, for me, success looks like a utopia community in the sense that youth have what they need to develop in a positive way, to develop the kind of resilience and temperament that is needed to overcome the challenges of day-to-day life and give themselves the best possible chance to reach their full potential. I think when I look at this work, I look at it from the lens of a 65-year-old Black man who were on the tail end of segregation and Jim Crow. And I look at it from what my parents and my grandparents endured and many others. And as African-American people, it was during the most difficult times that we seem to be most successful. So I think what young people are now missing is this nurturing that builds a sense of resilience and ethnic pride that does not lend itself to the killing each other, but yet holding up and, you know, working to become a positive adult in your a member of your community prior to incarceration, right? Staying away from being incarcerated and really giving yourself the best opportunity to live the best of the American dream that you can.
Thank you. Thank you both. I have a question here from our president, Lynn Epman. Reverend Dinkins, why do you think the churches are no longer as involved as they used to be? How can you affect change in that regard?
Yeah, so I think what has happened to the church is that we no longer have a universal issue, collective issue that we can rally behind. The pastor that I grew up under was working, and the pastors of his generation was working to create equitable access for Black people in employment and other social opportunities. I think the church and the Black community struggles with survival. To be honest with you, people don't go to church like they used to, and so it's not the central meeting place to have the kind of discussion that really motivated the community as a whole and set some sense of collective community values for communities. What we've done at Hosanna Community is used our church, our foundation, our community collaboration to build and work toward building a system of care that will substitute what churches were prior to the younger generation of pastors that have come along, so that people that we serve have and sense that they have support systems at every appropriate age of development. So we work to teach them the kind of social skills that's needed. I'm sure Wayne will agree, most of his clients have never been exposed to social skills that lend themselves to a productive kind of lifestyle of being able to resolve conflict without using a firearm. And so that's what I sense we can do. From a community perspective, the challenges have been agencies and those who fund the work don't necessarily, at this point, see the work the way that we present the work needs to be addressed.
Following up on that, Reverend Dinkins and Wayne, both of you are well known for your ability to make a type of community coordinated work. I mean, you seem to have a talent, not only a commitment, but the ability to make it work. And I'm assuming that beyond your individual abilities, you have learned a few things about what it takes really to create effective collaborative work in Black communities, basically, that are working with this issue of gun violence. And I wonder if you can share some of your thoughts on that, about what really seems to be the basic ingredients of a successful collaborative effort and how to promote them. Keep in mind, I'm asking this question, knowing that we have representatives of different states and different parts of the United States in the audience. So I wanted to kind of like give you a chance to share some of your thoughts on this with them too.
Well, you know, when you form a coalition, the first rule is don't compete for your coalition members for funding. So it's hard to keep a coalition together if you're competing with the people that are part of your coalition. So that is the first rule that we put in place, is that we don't compete for funding with our partners. We may do collaborative applications or a collaborative funding exercise with our partners, but not competing against a collaborative partner. The other thing is it goes to the initial planning. You can't shove a plan down the people's throat thinking that you know what's best for them. It's important and critical that they develop the plan. And when I say they, that means any group that you're working with, is that they, it's just, for example, let's say Etiony, you and I decide that we're going to hold a baby shower for our wife, right? And you know, we've never held a baby shower before. We've never been to a baby shower before. We probably will never go to a baby shower. And yet we're going to plan it, right? I mean, it doesn't make sense, right? And so, you know, if you're inclusive of the people that are the treatment group, the one that you're trying to intervene with, let them build up the plan, right? And then you help them to facilitate it. One of the things that we've done is we're trying to elevate the voices of the people in the prison. You know, the ones that were driving the violence, the ones that are, you know, were your shooters. You know, and it's like, well, why? And what do you need, you know, to prevent, you know, this from happening to your children? You know, and so by elevating the voices of the forgotten people, right? The people in the prisons, for example, you know, and let them be a part of the plan. Let them actually be the leaders and the drivers of the plan. And then we provide them with the support. Of course, we have, you know, the academia, and we have the empirical data and these things that can be infused in those strategies and plans so that we don't make, you know, mistakes that, you know, like, you know, so many of the programs, feel-good programs that don't really help just feel good when you're doing them. But allowing people to be a part of that planning process, and then showing them how empirical data and how significant anecdotal data can shape the plans and can shape the success of the coalition. And number one, listen. Stop talking and listen. I mean, we have to be better listeners if we want to incorporate people in the planning.
Yeah, Wayne, I agree with you, yet I struggle with community partners on a number of levels. One of the levels that I struggle with community partners on is the establishment of a clear single process of what will guide what implementation strategies we use. We're beyond the day of doing what we think is a community needs. If we use prevention science models, then the data guides us in terms of what needs to be addressed. It facilitates a path by which we can begin to understand root causes. It gives us the ability to measure our effectiveness along the way. I don't have to wait to get to the end of the grant and have the funder to do evaluation. We have processes in place that helps us to understand the activities that we're doing and the impact that they're having on our clients. Because many of us as community providers are yet learning what prevention science actually is, because of the way funding normally come down in a soloid kind of environment, I struggle with not only partners, but also funders. I believe that no one agency, no matter how great we are, has what it takes to address the needs of an entire community. So to build a system of care gives us the best possible chance to be able to address the needs of the masses with a continuum of care practice, meaning that all of the partners involved in the partnership knows what's happening with those clients. We all agree, we're very much aware of the case management, the process of their improvement, what partner's doing what, is it effective or not, and we're able to make the kind of adjustments that's needed along the way. I said to you earlier, one of my lessons learned was understanding community level politics. That was the one thing that I did not consider in terms of doing this work and developing a system of care. If the community level politics is not on board, it becomes very difficult to win the kind of support you need from offices where elections occur and that kind of thing.
All right. Thank you both for that. I have some other comments to make about that, but we also have now Dawn joining us in the as a discussant. Dawn, you have the floor.
Well, Wayne and Charles, thank you for those really moving and inspirational comments of your work. I want to apprise the audience of two resources that are worth mentioning that the Melissa Institute has attended to. One has to do with the topic of suicide, actually. A former student of mine, Jonas Sarno, who presented at previous conferences, has developed an intervention program for emergency doctors all through California, so that when a victim of suicide, a young person, is brought in, they have an intervention program that follows up. This is sort of like the program that Wayne commented on with regard to victims of homicide. In 25% of the cases, parents of individuals who have attempted suicide do not get rid of their guns in the home. So they have developed an entire intervention program for both the families and the victims. The second observation I want to make has to do a follow-up in terms of Charles. He noted that in 1,000 cases, there's at least some police killing of victims, of individuals, mainly of those who are African American. And the Melissa Institute has created a bystander intervention program in response to the George Floyd kind of incident. If you remember, there were 3 other policemen there when Chauvin had his knee on his neck. So the Melissa Institute has developed a slideshow, apropos of your preoccupation with apps, in order to help police identify high-risk situations. So once again, your movement with regard to the homicide finds a parallel to us in our own work, previous work. And I encourage the audience to visit the Melissa Institute to see those activities. I have the highest regard, God, for the community And if the Melissa Institute can help you, Charles, achieve your goals of a utopian society, we'd be more than happy to do so.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Don. One piece, Wayne and Charles, that came to my mind, and it was, the idea was triggered by your comment, Charles, about the intergenerational, basically, transmission of gun violence, reliance on gun violence, as a means of getting things done, and which to me is just almost like almost synonymous with the structural poverty and structural trauma suffered by these families, over generations. This is so this is and it makes me think, and this has been a theme, mixed in with conversations in the morning and through your presentation, the whole notion of trauma, and really how it is having effects at the individual, relational, and community level. Because it appears to me that if we ought to develop workable partnerships, then we also owe it to the people that we bring into those partnerships to help them develop the appropriate understanding of how trauma, how it's affecting their lives, and their ability to engage effectively with others. Because when you raise the issues that you mentioned, Wayne, about competition or this or that, those things just flare up more when you perceive the world in threatening ways, and when you're used to be beaten down, so to speak, and you assume that that's just what's going to happen again. So I mean, I just encourage, and I offer you, both of you, the resources of the Institute, as well as others in the audience. And you know that we do plenty of training in that area. We work with the violence interrupters on this topic in the past, and are working now with every organization that we can find really in South Florida that is dealing with gun violence prevention on this issue. But I think it's a very important one for us to consider. And I wonder if you have some thoughts about that.
So I want to just say this, Dr. Etiony. In Miami-Dade County, from my lens, we have everything that is needed to develop a very comprehensive, not only gun violence reduction initiative, but a positive youth development initiative, right? I mean, community violence interruption is certainly a part of what needs to happen. I think when our nation gives that as a solution to our communities, I don't know about anyone else, but I view it as an insult to say that's our best effort to reduce gun violence for communities that have been very resilient over the years in terms of American history. So I believe that we have everything we need in Miami-Dade County if funders would create an environment that said to us in these indigenous communities, y'all got to learn how to live together. Otherwise, you don't get the money. I think we'll learn how to live together.
Wayne?
Well, there's many things that have come to my mind at this point. But the bottom line is you have to answer the question, what's in it for me, for an agency that's going to invest staff time, invest resources. So, for example, like the Walking One Stop that I mentioned earlier, people need to be able to fill the slots that they have for their funding. They need to be able to do outreach. They need to be able to engage clients where they are. And so, Walking One Stop, everybody comes on their own dime. It doesn't cost much to put on a Walking One Stop, and it creates a collective efficacy and a team building opportunity for people to come together and address the answers of gun violence in the community. And so that's one thing. And then a couple other things I want to just hit on is this question about the role of faith institutions. And I think it begins with us, right? If you are a believer, then understanding that you're put here to serve others and not to do harm to others. And so for us to be able to take this work and do good for other human beings as we would want to be done for us, I think is a key part of it. And and this idea of success, I just want to throw this out there, Etiony, is that when we started introducing the anti-violence initiative in our catchment area of Liberty City and Brownsville, 2019, there were 27 group member involved homicides that year. In 2023, we had 2. That's 25 lives, and that, to me, that's success.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks for bringing the data with it.
Say
something, Rob? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, if I can, very quickly, our efforts in our community to work together gives us a kind of strength that is sustainable long term. I believe beyond who's in the mayor's office, beyond who's at the state attorney's office, if the community is equipped and their capacity is increased to be able to nurture their own community, create the kind of collective efficacy that's needed, that is a real solution to reducing crime and other undesired behaviors in communities. If we collectively came together across these disciplines and how we see the issue and go through a process of allowing the needs of the client to be the top priority as opposed to the needs of an agency, then we put ourselves in a better position to be able to address the real needs of the client and ultimately create long-term sustainability on the front end before young people get involved in the legal system. Is a belief, and a public health approach speaks to that and leads community down the path of developing that.
It's a wonderful, lovely conversation. I'm gonna exercise executive privilege now, and we'll have two more questions before we take a coffee break and get ready for the next session. But one is a low-hanging fruit for Wayne. There are questions about how people can get involved with the Walking One Stop. We can't hear you. Wayne, you're in mute.
Oh, okay. I'll put my email, my phone number in the chat. Just contact me. I'll send you the link so you can get the invites to the Walking One Stop. But we'll be happy to have the participation of any and all of you that would like to participate.
And I should add to that Wayne is very understated when he talks about the Walking One Stop. I wrote the Melissa Institute nominated him for a national recognition award for his work in that area. We didn't win, but we were close. So so it's really a fantastic program and how it is run. So there's a lot of lessons to be learned about that for anybody who wants to reach directly to Wayne to do so. The other question is inspired by a comment made by our good friend Holly Swirling. And as you know, Holly is who's been in the movement of involving fathers and director of the Fatherhood Task Force in South Florida. She's always reminding us that to think about that and not forget in our discussions their role in this. And in this case, it made me think about clearly when we're talking about gun violence especially in communities of color. And we're talking about really gun violence perpetrated by men, and then you're talking about the structural piece of it, intergenerational part, boys learning from their fathers about it. And so the question is, she says, we must see that as part of the solution. And why do we sometimes do not recognize the power of fatherhood in this process?
I think Etiony, the problem on this, it goes back to before gestation. When a person decides to be intimate with another person, does a question come to the mind, will this person be a good father for my child? Or will this person be a good mother for my child? I don't think that crosses the mind. And with the institution of marriage pretty much, going down the tube for half of the American population, and those the half that does get married, the divorce rates are like astronomical. We have to fix, that commitment that we have to marriage and to our partners, and ask that question. If we're going to be intimate with the person, the question is going to be, would that person make a good parent for my child? And if we assess that to be no, then I think it'd be wise for us to restrain ourselves from engaging in that intimacy and reestablishing that concept and that belief in marriage, between individuals that are committed to raising families and raising children. So a father that's, absent, is in prison or just not around, and then he comes into the life, it's important. Don't get me wrong, definitely it is important. Fatherhood is critical, but it goes back to before gestation and making that assessment. Will that individual make a good father or a good mother for my child?
I'll just make two comments along that line. One is, in every man, there's a boy. Learning how to be a man starts at the boy phase of life. And so having good role models and pro-social activities that help you understand the responsibility of being what a man is, defining what a man is, I think is important, needs to be a part of the community fiber. But also let us not overlook the impact of slavery upon African Americans in America. The impact of slavery, the trauma, is very seldom mentioned when we start addressing the issues of being Black in America. But trauma still has, slavery still has a traumatic impact on how we live and move and have our being among the African diaspora. And this whole Willie Lynch theory and how it impacts even the way we behave and think today as Americans, Black Americans, is still a thing that we have to overcome.
Well, thank you guys for always overdoing yourselves and kind of like exceeding expectations. Thank you, Charles, in particular, for coming to bat in the 9th inning with 2 outs and getting it out of the park. So I am very, very grateful to you for the courage to do it and the willingness to share with us your insights. And Wayne, the same to you. And love having the opportunity to hear you again and again and again. I learn something every time from you. And thank you, Don, for joining us.